Tonight, a Gold Coast after-school care worker tests positive as 37 more Queensland coronavirus cases are confirmed. Sydney's Bondi Beach closes after social distancing rules were ignored. One week out from the local government elections, why this polling day is unlike anything you've ever seen. And country music loses a legend. Kenny Rogers dies aged 81. Good evening, Jessica Van Vonderon with ABC News. A Gold Coast after-school care worker who had coronavirus symptoms for days while supervising children is among 37 new cases recorded in Queensland overnight. Authorities say the person shouldn't have been at the Helensvale State School. They're urging people to take the advice seriously, stay at home and limit social contact.
Socialising in an era of social crackdown. Queenslanders were asked to stay home this weekend. Some didn't get the message. There's reluctance to give up simple freedoms.
I'm still going to go out until the time that I think that it's necessary to stay at home.
Now that there is more information out, a lot more people will be able to comply tonight and tomorrow. Cafe goers and market patrons ignored the new personal space rules.
I'm not going to sit inside and worry about it too much. Like, you've got to go about your day normally.
But venue owners could be held responsible.
It is now the law that they cannot have more than 100 people in a single space and that they cannot have more than one person per 4 square metres. They need to comply with that.
At 37 new cases in Queensland, the rate of increase has slowed.
We had 50, we had 40, then today 37. So we're hovering around those numbers, which means we're keeping it under control.
One of those, a worker at Helensvale Primary School's after-school care.
Our understanding is that that is the case, that they were at work for some number of days.
The rooms are closed for cleaning while all staff and children are contacted by health authorities and told to go into home quarantine. Authorities say the worker should have stayed at home.
If they have any symptoms, they're going to have to isolate themselves and get tested. That's absolutely critical.
For me, it's a really tough issue. We're having chats every morning in the school. We're washing our hands more frequently.
As restrictions increase, Brisbane is closing all 33 council-run libraries.
This is about reducing the risk to people during this current coronavirus challenge that we're in.
Places favoured by young and old.
We've really got to protect our older members of our community.
If relying on people to stay at home and keep their distance doesn't work, authorities are considering all manner of radical responses, including bans on interstate travel and forced community lockdowns.
We think right through what might we need, right through, and what are the extreme possibilities that we might need to be prepared for.
In the outback, organisers of the Cloncurry races are accepting the reality of social isolation.
We consider the races in Cloncurry a very important part of everybody's mental well-being in the area.
The area's biggest social event now run before an empty field.
We don't have any cases out here yet, but it's, we've got to look after ourselves, and if we've got to cancel events to stop the spread of it, then that's what we've got to do.
George Roberts, ABC News.
One of Australia's most famous beaches, Bondi, has been shut under the latest extraordinary measure to tackle coronavirus. Authorities stepped in after thousands flocked to the beach, ignoring health advice.
If you headed to Bondi Beach this week, you wouldn't have known we're living through a crisis.
People don't want to be stuck indoors all day, every day.
I sort of feel like it's a pretty safe place to be. I don't think I'm causing anyone harm.
But that misconception is exactly what authorities are warning against.
What happened in Bondi was unacceptable, and the local council must take steps to stop that occurring.
By lunchtime, they had.
We will now be seeing beaches across the state that failed to comply with the public gathering regulations are closed.
If you are thinking of coming to the beach, don't.
From today, Bondi and any other beach with crowds exceeding 500 people will be closed. Surf lifesavers will monitor numbers and police will be brought in if beachgoers refuse to leave.
There are powers available to us, and if we have to use them, we will.
If it's for the benefit of people, like to make sure the virus doesn't go to everyone, then I think it's a good idea, yeah.
I think it's a bit of overreaction.
Bustling cafes and restaurants nearby may be forced to disperse patrons too.
We are now working with industry associations to make sure that they're not flouted. I've already inspected a number of licensed premises over the course of the last 48 hours to make sure that they can work within the regulations.
South of Bondi, the Ruby Princess cruise ship remains off the Illawarra coast. On board, more than 1,000 crew isolated in rooms under doctor supervision.
I'm advised by New South Wales Health that the company has done all that's appropriate, that is isolated all of the staff within the cabins that were previously occupied by passengers.
3 passengers and 1 staff member were diagnosed with coronavirus yesterday. Their results came back after nearly 2,700 passengers had disembarked.
I'm absolutely boggled that we were allowed to leave the ship before the test results came through. I don't know what Muppet was running the show.
All have now been forced into 2 weeks of quarantine. With 12 days remaining, this family are biding their time.
Lots of Stan and Netflix to catch up on and YouTube and that sort of thing, so taking it quite easy.
For now, taking it easy at home is the only course of action. Lily Mayers, ABC News, Sydney.
The Ruby Princess was one of a handful of cruise ships given special permission to dock in Australia despite a 30-day ban. A blame game has now erupted over the bungled handling of the ship's arrival. From Canberra, here's political reporter Jane Norman.
This is a voyage none of the Pacific Princess passengers intended to take. Docked at their destination in Fremantle, only to be turned around and sent home.
Nobody on or off for the last 30 days, so nobody's sick.
The whole thing is messed up. Arriving just hours after the borders slammed shut, foreigners were escorted to the airport, the Australians into self-isolation.
It's about 36 hours to get back to Mexico City.
The orderly process, a stark contrast to this week's arrival of the Ruby Princess in Sydney.
Consistency of communication is key, and frankly, we are not seeing it.
Foreign cruise ships have been banned from entering Australia, but a handful that were already on their way have been allowed to dock. The Health Minister insists strict conditions are in place. It's up to the states to enforce them.
New South Wales is now applying those conditions, and I thank them for accepting the advice of the Commissioner of the Australian Border Force.
Whether it's by ship or plane, Australians are racing to get home. Commercial flights won't be available for much longer. Even travel within Australia is about to get a lot harder.
Sorry, we are shut.
The Northern Territory joining Queensland and Tasmania in imposing strict border controls.
The news we're seeing every day is not good, and we're currently doubling cases every 3 days.
Health authorities are hoping that trajectory will start to change as border closures and travel bans take effect. And in the meantime,
we are testing widely, more widely than almost any other country.
Soon there'll be even more, with Australian scientists on the brink of developing their own test.
Some of these innovations will make a difference within weeks.
The size and scale of the coronavirus crisis has forced the government to impose drastic measures designed to save lives, despite causing massive economic damage. Tomorrow, a second stimulus package will be unveiled that's set to dwarf the $17.6 billion plan announced just over a week ago. This one's expected to contain relief for retirees, a new wage for workers who lose their jobs, and billions to keep businesses afloat. It's unlikely this package will be the last. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Social distancing rules are changing daily life in a dramatic way. Amelia Terzon reports indoor and outdoor gatherings are all affected.
Happy birthday to you. An important milestone, but no big party. Ruby's grandparents live just down the road, but they couldn't attend her first birthday because they're self-isolating.
It's hard not to hug and cuddle.
Ruby's mum had been planning a party for 75 people, but she cancelled due to COVID-19.
The idea of putting anyone at risk is horrendous.
The The enhanced rules ban indoor gatherings of 100 or more. And for smaller gatherings, there needs to be 4 square metres available for every person in the area. People are still coming together in venues with reduced capacities.
Inside, we're down to 25.
This Adelaide restaurant is sticking to the new rules by changing its floor plan.
And that's the way that we have to do business for as long as we can.
Other cafes are still busy, but telling people to wait outside for their takeaway coffees.
I think if people are on a table of 10, they should be on that table of 10 with appropriate distance between them. It needs to be a big table.
Set shot.
Footballers playing to empty stadiums are also trying new ways to keep their distance. But old habits die hard.
Run it!
Suburban cricket finals are still going ahead in inner city Melbourne this weekend, with one caveat: don't spit on the balls.
I don't think it's wise for organisations to be cutting off people's social activity prematurely.
Australia's biggest casino was exempt from the social gathering rules, but now even Crown Casino is being told to comply or close.
The social distancing measures are serious. There's no joking about this. It is absolutely serious.
A serious time, but thankfully still with a smile. Amelia Terzon, ABC News.
New York has issued an executive order mandating that all of the state's non-essential workforce stay home. The state is grappling with dwindling medical supplies amid a dramatic jump in cases. North America correspondent Catherine Diss reports from Washington.
Eerily quiet in the city that never sleeps. The trains are still running, but no one's at the station. The state of New York now in lockdown.
The number starts to go up, tighten the valve. If the number doesn't slow down, close the valve.
The number of cases in the state now surpassing 7,000, putting immense pressure on hospitals and critical supplies.
Ventilators are to this war what missiles were to World War II. We need ventilators.
With the hospital system under increasing stress, the death toll continues to rise at an alarming rate. Among the fatalities, 4 members of the same family, a 73-year-old woman in New Jersey and 3 of her children. Across the country, California's 40 million residents also hunkered down as a statewide lockdown came into place. The notorious 405 highway in Los Angeles free-flowing, while police patrolled empty beaches for violators. After closing its northern border with Canada earlier this week, the White House is now also locking down its southern flank with Mexico. It's only a matter of time before the country shuts the door entirely to international travellers.
In normal times, these massive flows place a vast burden on our healthcare system. But during a global pandemic, they threaten to create a perfect storm.
Shutting down the borders will slow the spread, but with cases now surging past 15,000 in just 2 days, the country is running out of time to contain it. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Washington.
Britain has taken its lockdown to the next level, closing pubs, cafes and restaurants. Britain's fight against the pandemic is reviving memories of the collective effort during the Second World War. Europe correspondent Samantha Hawley reports from London.
They once fought on the beaches, the streets and the fields. Now the British are fighting a very different battle.
We are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close tonight as soon as they reasonably can.
Closing time will be hard to swallow for lovers of a British cultural institution.
6 months is a bit of a long time to not go to a pub. For us English person especially.
It's a war against the enemy we cannot see.
As social distancing measures ramp up, so too is the hit to the economy. With the growing number of workers laid off, the government has stepped in, agreeing to pay 80% of wages, up to $5,000 a month.
We said we would stand together with the British people, and we meant it.
The closure of Britain's pubs, clubs and restaurants will be a blow to millions, but medical experts are looking at the soaring death tolls across Europe and seeing a horrifying alternative if action isn't taken.
Italy has set a new record for the most deaths in a day, 627. The second worst toll just 2 days ago was 475.
We are doing our best, but maybe it's not enough.
In Germany, leaders are warning that if social distancing directives are ignored, new measures will be introduced to enforce them.
We're starting to look a bit like Italy and France. If we're not careful, we'll end up like them.
As Japan presses ahead with the torch relay, the UK athletics and US swimming chiefs are suggesting the Games be postponed by a year. Across Europe, the power of music is helping residents endure the lockdown. In Germany, a social distance sing-along. And in the UK, World War II singer Vera Lynn took to YouTube, re-uploading her most famous song.
We'll meet again.
On her 103rd birthday, Dame Vera had a message for the war on coronavirus.
Keep smiling and keep singing.
Samantha Hawley, ABC News, London.
Well, the opera in Paris is being live streamed. Italy and Germany are holding balcony parties, and Spain is sweating it out with rooftop fitness classes to boost morale. An increasing number of Australians are also coming together to help each other. Anna Hartley reports.
They're only young, but these children are doing their bit to add some colour to a bleak situation.
A big giant.
At a daycare centre in Brisbane's northwest, kids are preparing a care package for elderly residents at the local nursing home. Their monthly visits cancelled due to the coronavirus crackdown.
We want to just make sure that we're keeping that connection and making sure that they know that we're thinking of them and we can do all this together.
It's just one way Australians are coming together. As supermarket shelves are stripped bare, this bakery in Boona in the Scenic Rim has started free deliveries, dropping bread to the doors of the elderly or vulnerable.
It's just really important to stay positive. And, you know, like we've suffered some big things in this country and we'll get through it. We just have to keep calm and be kind to people.
It's prompted other small businesses in the region to offer a similar service, helping parents like Sarah Bottle keep their children at a safe distance.
Things like this, I suppose, help to reassure them that everything is business as usual, just continuing on, but doing it slightly differently, I suppose.
As more people across Australia choose to stay in their homes, there's also been an increase in support groups forming on social media. One Facebook group in Brisbane's west has garnered 1,000 members in a week.
It's like the real world. Most people are lovely. Most people want to help. And if they're given a forum and a reason to do it, then they just appear.
Experts say the way communities act now is crucial.
How we respond within this next little while is going to set the tone for how we as a nation respond.
As a nation of battlers prepares to tackle one of its greatest challenges yet. Anna Hartley, ABC News.
From know how to vote cards to extended pre-polling hours, this local government election is different from every previous one. With a week to go, we take a look at what's on the table from the major parties in Brisbane.
Rates, cashbacks, dump vouchers for renters and free off-peak public transport for everyone are just some of the things on offer from the main candidates. The incumbent Lord Mayor says under a re-elected LNP Brisbane City Council, Brisbane could expect business as usual, and that was a good thing.
Things like $550 million for better roads across the Brisbane suburbs, a $100 million investment in our parks right across Brisbane.
There's also the planned redevelopment of Victoria Park, 5 new green bridges and a high-frequency bus network in the CBD called Brisbane Metro. Then there are sweeteners for individuals, a free second recycling bin for those who want one, dump vouchers for renters and a program for free native plants.
The future is incredibly bright for Brisbane and our city and our region will keep growing, and that requires big investment in infrastructure, better public transport, better roads and also better quality parkland and more parkland.
Labor newcomer Patrick Condren says he's all about the suburbs and has set his agenda around getting rid of level rail crossings and linking bikeways.
This is an on-the-ground, a practical suburban solution to congestion busting.
Ratepayers who pay on time across 4 consecutive quarters will get a $100 cashback under Labor. They want to add bike lanes in the CBD and more services to the most congested bus routes.
5 extra services in the morning and 4 in the afternoon.
The Greens' policy agenda is built around revitalising the city by introducing a vacancy levy for commercial and private property owners who leave their premises empty without a good reason. They say this empty motel in South Brisbane is an example of why the levy is needed.
This is going to help place downward pressure on rents, which will help address housing affordability and homelessness.
The Greens say they'd introduce a binding vote for neighbourhoods on major planning decisions and extend free off-peak public transport to everyone.
So all night and all weekend, free buses, free city cats for everyone. We'd also like to see a full network review, and we've proposed new city glider routes.
This is the first time Queenslanders have been able to vote across 2 consecutive Saturdays. The Health Department is warning people to keep their distance, but isn't worried about infection rates at polling booths.
There's still a chance the election may yet be postponed, but all votes cast so far, more than 1 million, will still be valid. Stephanie Zillman, ABC News, Brisbane.
A land management group in North Queensland is calling for an aerial burning program to be applied across the country. It's been taken up by graziers wanting to save valuable pasture.
This helicopter is off to fight fire with fire. It's dropping embers to start a series of small burns in an ancient practice called mosaic burning.
Well, it controls wildfires, lightning strikes and, anyone that chucks a match, I suppose, on the side of the road too.
Calton Hills is an Indigenous-run cattle station in northwest Queensland. The burning program is being run here to conserve the endangered Carpentarian grass wren, which lives in old spinifex grass.
The logic of our fire management program is to break up those fuel loads, to get a patchwork of old and not so old spinifex.
And while the program is in its infancy, the early signs are promising.
Things are really on track to avoid the large-scale fires that we've seen on Carlton Hills and elsewhere out there that we've seen in the past.
The neighbouring cattle station has also joined the program, but its owner Lloyd Hicks says more burns are needed to determine its success.
We probably got a little bit less burnt than we thought we would, just with the cycle of the spinifex.
The Kalkadoon people in northwest Queensland have been using this technique for thousands of years, and proponents of this program believe it can be applied across the country. It's something a Royal Commission into Australia's bushfire regime will examine later this year. Eric Barker, ABC News, Mount Isa.
Legendary American singer-songwriter Kenny Rogers has died at the age of 81.
You got to know when to hold 'em.
Rogers won his first Grammy for his 1978 signature song, The Gambler, which remained a fan favourite. He went on to win over new audiences when he and Dolly Parton teamed up on Islands in the Stream, another #1 hit.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are.
The multi-award-winning Rogers toured extensively. He married 5 times and had 5 children. He died surrounded by his family, who will wait until after the coronavirus threat to hold a public memorial. In the NRL, scans have revealed Broncos halfback Brodie Croft has suffered a shoulder injury, but it's unclear if he'll spend any time on the sidelines. Last night, Brisbane was too good for South Sydney at Lang Park.
The coaches weren't happy with the early exchanges as the Raiders and the Warriors struggled with ball control. Canberra eventually got its act together.
Oh, beautiful pass! Elliott Whitehead.
The Raiders scored 2 more tries early in the second half.
Look at it, 4-on-1. Croker delays his pass.
Eli Katoa and Joseph Tapine were taken off for HIAs, but both were cleared to return. New Zealand was given some hope when it was awarded a penalty try, but a comeback proved fanciful as the Raiders had the final say.
Curtis Scott pouring through. Curtis Scott gets there.
The Broncos have the youngest team in the competition who are maturing quickly.
Staggs tries to size them up.
I think they've grown, from boys last year to into men.
Centre Katoni Staggs sure has. He finished with 3 tries for Brisbane, who beat the Rabbitohs 22 points to 18.
Tipped on to Staggs, he's off again.
Really proud of the way that he's sort of growing as a player and as a person as well away from footy.
Staggs filled in at halfback for Brodie Croft, who was taken off with a shoulder injury.
He is in awful pain, Brodie Croft.
Corey Oates left clutching his ribs and is unlikely to play next Sunday against the Titans.
He's in a lot of pain though, the big man.
They're pretty uncomfortable, so he's probably doubtful for next week, I would have thought at this stage.
Latrell Mitchell had a mixed night, starting at fullback and finishing in the centres for Souths.
And Mitchell's passes ended up over the sideline.
Rabbitohs coach Wayne Bennett hasn't ruled out starting Mitchell at centre for next week's clash against his former club, the Sydney Roosters. Michael Rennie, ABC News.
The Gold Coast Suns are out of the AFLW finals after being thrashed by Fremantle. Melbourne staged a stirring comeback to beat GWS.
Defence dominated a goalless opening quarter between GWS and Melbourne. The game reached greater heights in the second term as the Demons kicked the first goal.
Mithen on the board, Melbourne on the board.
The Giants pushed back though and added some polish to their finishing to lead by 14 at three-quarter time. The Demons had only one goal in 3 quarters but found their range in the last term. In the final minute, it fell to Mithen, goalless in 24 matches before today, to win the game.
Mithen's got it! Unbelievable!
The D's pulled off a heroic comeback.
Off the canvas, off to a prelim.
While the Giants were eliminated and devastated. North Melbourne controlled much of the first half against Collingwood.
She got mugged.
But didn't take their opportunities, while the Magpies seized the moment.
She'll have a flying shot at goal and put it through for the Pies.
3 quick goals in the second term saw Collingwood open up a 10-point lead.
Seas just parted. Malloy bounces it through.
And they celebrated accordingly. The Kangaroos fought their way back though, and another gift from Collingwood allowed them to edge in front.
Puts it through! North Melbourne are in front at three-quarter time!
The final quarter went down to the wire, but the Roos held on by 2 points.
And it's a special slice of history for the Kangaroos.
AFLW's only unbeaten side continued on its way against the Suns. Sabrina Duffy set up the first goal and kicked the second.
And she has the polish to finish it off.
Only her Dockers teammates could stop her in the first quarter. In the second, Fremantle showed its class.
That is a wonderful finish.
With an impressive highlights reel.
Oh, Roxy Roo hits the pack hard.
The second half was a procession in what finished a 70-point win. Peter Lusted, ABC News.
In the A-League, Brisbane's late-season revival has continued with a 1-0 win against Newcastle. Former Socceroo Scott McDonald was again the hero as the Roar celebrated a 3rd straight win. The result cements Brisbane's place in the top 6.
And Luis Italiano totally wrong-footed, and Scott McDonald has his 4th goal in 3 games. Everything he touches turns to goals at the moment.
It's the Jets' first defeat under its new coach. Weather now, another sprinkle of showers along the North Tropical Coast today. Only falls of around 10 millimetres near Innisfail, but it's going to get much wetter tomorrow. There's already a severe weather warning out. More on that shortly. It was another warm one in the west. Birdsville the hottest in the state on 39 degrees. Rockhampton and Townsville climbed to 32. Pretty warm in Brisbane too, with a sunny 33 degrees, 35 at Gatton, but just 29 on the Sunshine Coast. To the satellite, cool southerlies are bringing light showers to Victoria and Tasmania, while a trough is triggering showers and storms in central and southern WA. Checking the capital cities for tomorrow, Sydney, Canberra and Perth will be mostly sunny. Melbourne and Hobart a possible shower, partly cloudy for Adelaide. To the chart, and it's the trough in the Coral Sea that'll be the big feature for us tomorrow. It'll approach the North Tropical Coast, bringing heavy rain with 6 hourly totals of 1 to 200 millimetres, even isolated falls of 300 millimetres. So there is a flood watch for coastal catchments between Cooktown and Ingham. A shower or two for Townsville, Mackay partly cloudy, sunny in Mount Isa. Staying dry through the west, warm too, Windora 39 degrees, Longreach 38. Partly cloudy in the southeast tomorrow, 29 the top for the Gold and Sunshine Coasts, Toowoomba and Bundaberg heading for 30 degrees. Not quite as warm in Brisbane tomorrow at 31 degrees, 32 at Beaudesert. On Moreton Bay, variable winds to 15 knots, tending north-northeasterly in the afternoon. And looking ahead, a weak trough and southerly change are likely to move into southeast Queensland during Monday, increasing our chance of some showers and possibly a thunderstorm. And that is ABC News for now. Thanks for watching. For news anytime, head to our website or download the ABC News app. Good night.